see if I'm able to get this thing stable. I'm pounding the table. We got the Carolina Panthers. What is cooling, baby? What's going on? That's right. We got to go through this team. Look at the roster after free agency. A lot of things have changed with this team in a good way over these past couple of years. And now we go into this draft and thinking to ourselves, this team could be a legit competitive football team. Also, before we get into this, I do want to apologize. It's been a minute since I've put out videos and I have not been very consistent lately. I'll be real with you. I've been dealing with some issues, right? And everybody's got their own issues, and this ain't, no pity party. Like I said, everybody's got their own problems. I've been dealing with some serious anxiety issues. I have had an anxiety issues kind of through, I've dealt with and whatnot. And it was just to the point where I'm like, I've been so dizzy lately. I don't know what's been going on, but I literally cannot stare at a screen. My head will like shake. I feel like I'm super wasted out here. I'm like, like my head's like vibrating and not in a good way or anything like that. I don't think that'd be a good anyway. But yeah, I know. G Sling, your basket case. What's going on? Jesus. So anyway, let's get back into this. I hope you guys are doing well and doing well all those things out there in life. And talking about the Carolina Panthers today, you look at this offensive line, and it's for once you're saying to yourself as a Panthers fan, we actually got something here. This offensive line is no joke. And going into the draft, this is not a huge priority for them. Of course, you can always invest in the offensive line, and I'm sure they will. My main thing that I would be investing in here is probably the tackle position in this case scenario, just because Taylor Moton is going into a contract year. So that's something that this team could add in the draft. I don't think it's an early need because I do think they extend Taylor Moton. Like, they'd be stupid not to, in my opinion. It would be really silly not to do that. So you got to give him an extension. I think it gets done even before the season begins because he's been one of the better right tackles in the NFL. And then you got Eki Kwanu, who's got so much potential, especially as he's already one of the better run blockers in the NFL to do. He can maul guys. I'm telling you right now. And he's got athletic traits to get out in the move. He just got to clean up his hand technique. It's still been an issue for him, and he sometimes gets over his toes in pass pro. So that is really the thing. If he can clean up as a pass protector, he could be one of the best left tackles in football. He's just not there yet, and his consistency definitely has to improve. But overall, like, they've got your starters. Josh Nyman's their swing man. Could you improve in that department? Yes. So that's another thing. Like, Nyman, struggled at times when he did get that chance. You got Brady Christensen, who can also play tackle for them. He can play anywhere on the offensive line. So it's nice to have a guy like Brady Christensen, who played well actually at center for them a good chunk of the season. So did Cade Mays at the end of the year. I might shout out him. But in general, I'd say tackle, like a fourth through fifth, sixth round as a swing tackle. That's really what they need to invest in here. Interior wise, they're in a really good spot. Robert Hunt, Damian Lewis, Austin Corbett. Now, Corbett's been a little injured throughout his, later portion of his career. You got Cade Mays. You got Brady Christensen. Both guys are free agents. All three of those guys are free agents. All the guys highlighted in red are actually free agents going into 2026 is what they are. If they're in black, that means that they have a fifth-year option that they're going to be going into. Overall wise, I would say that center wise, you're fine because at least you have depth, and you can always get Cade Mays back on the cheap, which they already tendered him. You got Brady Christensen, who they brought back as well on a cheap 1-year deal. They're in a pretty good spot in terms of depth. I don't think this is really a draft need right now. You see what you have. Maybe Cade Mays could be the long-term center for them. I think there's a really good chance in that. I like Cade Mays a lot. It's a little bit of Tennessee bias with that one. I liked him coming out of there a lot. Overall, not a big need on the interior. It's mainly the swing tackle position. And then we go on to the receiving and the tight end room. It's another area where I think they have their stars going into next season, okay? But do they need to add to this room? Absolutely. And mainly I want to start off with the wide receiving room. Their depth is razor thin. And looking to the future too, Adam Thielen, he's also been a little more injury prone at this point. So having somebody that can at least be a better fourth wide receiver for them. You got David Moore, I like the veteran leadership that he's going to bring in here. Overall, do I think that they need to add to this room? Absolutely. This is like a third, fourth round sweet spot. Getting somebody in that range who I think could be a really good wide receiver for long term, maybe a number 3 when Adam Thielen does. I mean, Thielen's still a great wide receiver. It's just injuries at this point. Hey, and we got to give a shout out to Jalen Coker. And Holy Cross, we also give a shout out to that program and that coaching staff because I feel like they've done a good job over these past couple of years developing and training some players and stuff like that. I got another guy coming out this year, formerly of Holy Cross, now Michigan State, and Luke Newman, keep an eye on him. I think he could be a steal for whoever gets him. But Coker is a guy that definitely could end up being this team's number 1 wide receiver. He's got all the tools. I don't see why he can't be a team's number 1 wide receiver. So we'll see on Coker. He played better than Leggett. I'll tell you that right now in his rookie season. And Leggett has some serious upside. So that's why I keep them close together. Both of those guys, really, 17 and 18, 19. I love the numbers, man, with that, the way they do that. But Leggett, expect him to get better. Hopefully he gets more consistent with his route running next season and overall hands, contested catchability. He has just through the roof potential with his size and speed for sure. like I said, just get some more depth. Tight end wise, Jartavian Sanders, another guy that's got all the traits to need to succeed. I could see them drafting Tyler Warren in the first round, but at the same time, I just feel like there's other bigger needs on the roster. It's a little bit of a luxury pick. I still think Jartavian Sanders can be a number one tight end. You got Tremble as like your backup tight end, number two blocking guy. And tight end's a position too. It typically takes a couple of years. Hey, Dave Canales did that with Cave Stovers, right? He kind of saw that for up front and personal. So I think that there's a really good chance that Jartavian Sanders in a couple of years can be a really plus starting tight end for this football team. And that's why I don't think it's really a huge need for this team, mainly as a depth wide receiver into the future. And then we go on to the running back room. Chuba, we got Chuba, Hubba Chubba. I don't know, or Hubba Bubba, should I say, the bubble gum. But Chuba Hubbard, really good running back, had a great year. You got Rico Dowdle, who they brought in on the cheap from the Dallas Cowboys. I thought that was robbery. Like, literally, this is a case of robbery over here. They got Rico, and he's a guy that I feel comfortable as a starter, per se. And you got these two combinations. I think Dowdle's going to be more your receiving element, and then Chuba's going to be more of your between the tackles early down runner. Brooks, unfortunately, going to be out for a good chunk of the season, so that sucks. But I think that they did a great job in this staff. Morgan, Dan Morgan, the GM, bringing in Rico Dowdle on a cheap, good move. And then we go on to the quarterback position, and this is another area that's not a need, right? You got Andy Dalton just signed as a backup for another couple of years. Bryce Young's gotten better and better. You're getting them more tools around him, more supporting cast. And I think he's got a really good chance to show out here into year number 3. So I think this running back quarterback room looks very, very good. And then going on to the defense side ball, and this is really where I think that the primarity of their needs begin. And when you look at this defensive line, the edge position, I know they added Pat Jones. He really did a good job. I mean, for them this season, and Brian Flores' defense. Now, Flores used him in a lot of ways, like as a 5 tech, really is his best scenario because he was able to get around guards so quickly with his athleticism and get after the quarterback. He made a lot of plays though, and he won a lot of reps on the outside too. So he definitely could be a nice addition for them and has the traits that Dan Morgan's looking for. And they do seem, and that's the thing. I don't know. I see Jalen Walker mocked to this football team a lot, but I really think they look for those 6'4", 6'5" plus guys with 250 plus pounds and an athletic profile, those freak athletes. Like, that's the thing. They're kind of the trend bulky type of drafter when it comes to that. So I think they're going to be in the market for like a Mikael Williams, a Shamar Stewart profile type in this draft. I mean, I could be wrong about that. It just seems like that's really the threshold and the style of edge player that they seem to look for. Now, looking at this edge position, Jadeveon Clowney, still a good football player, but he's going into a contract year, getting older now. DJ Williams going into a contract. He's been a little banged up. So Pat Jones, DJ Jones is really Johnson has to really prove anything there. What, a 3rd round pick they traded up for from Oregon. So we'll see if that ends up working out or not. That's why I'm saying, like, this is still a top priority for me. And even on this entire roster, I think it's one of the biggest, if not the biggest needs still. Continue to bolster this edge position because they don't have a number one right now. And then on the interior wise, they're in a good position here. I will say, you got Tayshawn Ward you bring in as a good pass rusher. You bring in more depth at run defense stop with Bobby Brown. You got Derek Brown getting healthy now. A'Shawn Robinson's a good, solid run defender. They're in a pretty good spot. All 4 of those guys are under contract. Now, they could end up cutting either A'Shawn Robinson or, I mean, you can get out of contracts with Bobby Brown if it doesn't work out after a year. So there's that. But in general, like, they're in a pretty good spot here on this interior. I don't really see this as a huge draft need at all. It's the edge position. They need to continue to improve that. Linebacker wise, another area that they need to add. Okay, this is an area that you brought in Christian Roseboom, and he was a solid player for the Rams. I mean, he's a guy that ideally would be your 3rd linebacker, your rotational player, injuries, core special teamer, things like that. But as a guy that could be a bridge, then I'm okay with this. Trayvon Wallace with his shoulder, that's going to be something to keep an eye on. If he's going to be ready to go for the season, is going to be a big question. So whether or not that injury is going to linger a little bit longer, and plus is more of a developmental guy. He's just really raw with his take on ability and his overall nuance and IQ. But he's got the traits, right? His athletic profile, his size, like all those things are there with Wallace. He just might be a couple of year development and got to get healthy too. Josie Jewell comes back and is going to be a nice solid piece for them as their kind of like their Mike. And they need to develop, though, still a will. Because I think Wallace could end up being their Mike for the long haul. He's got the leadership ability and everything like that. They need more of a guy that could be in that coverage, sideline to sideline chase ability and things like that. So that's going to be what I'm looking for in the mid rounds. I mean, ideally, you could probably draft one even earlier, right? Maybe like even 2nd round. I could see them drafting a linebacker here, depending on who's on the board. But I would say 3rd, 4th round, sweet spot there in this draft class. Cornerback wise, you got JC Horn getting that record extension. Well, until Derek Stingley ended up breaking that. But Horn, good corners got to stay healthy. That's really been his biggest Achilles heel. Like, when he's on the field, he's one of the best one-on-one cover men in the NFL. Period. Now, does he have his own issues at times? Of course, I don't think he's perfect in zone coverage, mainly off coverage. Would I say? He's not the quickest to click and close, but in terms of putting him up at the line, and EJ Avero and his defensive scheme, like he plays so much cover three, and he'll also play plenty of like cover one. He'll do cover one, cover three. Like those, I would say, are his most popular coverage schemes that he likes to roll with, but very heavy cover three defense. And JC Horn is very, very good in that role. Mike Jackson also very, very good in that role as well. And I thought he was very good this season. I'm glad they brought him back and somebody that definitely earned a couple year extension there. Chai Smith Wade, Washington State cornerback. He's going to be somebody that's going to compete in the slot. They need to add. This is an early need of the draft. This is like your hope is a Mikey Sanders still in this draft class. So that to me, I don't know. I didn't watch a whole ton of film on Chai Smith Wade. I'll just be real with that. So if you have any advice on that, if you've seen a lot of him and you think he can be the starter, then definitely holler at me. But for right now, I'm not seeing anything that would put me over the top on that. And I want to definitely add competition, if nothing else, into this room. Look, they could always just use depth at the cornerback position. They are thin. They only got really a Caleb Evans in there. So let's go ahead and do that Shamar Bartholomew as well. And then we go on to the safety room. Another area that's a big need for them is adding another safety in here. Trayvon Merrick is a guy that can play really well in the box, and I think that's what they're going to utilize this guy in. I mean, Nicky Manwari, just imagine if you drafted Nicky Manwari in this defense too, which would be fun. It really would be. They could use, as much as they play cover three, this is a team that plays a lot of single high defenses. So if you had Merrick and Nicky Manwari in this defense, or even Malachi Starks, that would be incredible. I'm not gonna lie. So if you traded back, that would be pretty cool. It's not a huge like that type of priority, but it is something that I would say is a pretty big need. You got Nick Scott in here too, so we'll see what they do. Ultimately, safety is a need, right? It is something on day two. I would say you got to continue to improve. Fill out this room once and for all. Draft time here at number 8. We're going Mikael Williams, the edge rusher from Georgia. Now we were saying, oh my gosh, I'm clicking off this video. I'm done. It's over. What are you doing? Mikael Williams, he's so raw. Hear me out on this, because I actually like Mikael Williams a lot. Now, is he very much, would I love to see the production better? Would I love to see more tape in terms of better hand usage, more consistency as a pass rusher? Absolutely. All those things. He's a guy that's going to need some time to develop there. But this is something I think NFL teams are going to value a lot more than what the media evaluates, is his ability to play early, right? And do the trash, do the dirty work. Mikael Williams does that. That's the thing. Like, he can hold the point of attack. He can stack and shed blockers. He does that consistently on his film over and over again. And that is a huge thing that NFL teams are going to absolutely love about Mikael Williams. And they see the traits. They know the athleticism is there. Maybe the 40 time wasn't as good as what you wanted. He's been dealing with some injuries too. He's one of the youngest players in his entire draft class. He's just really everything he checks. I think he's going to the highest floors in this entire draft class. I don't know if he will end up being a top number one pass rusher, but he does have the tools to be. And with the right coaching, I believe this guy will be a very good football player. He fits what Dan Morgan is going to want to in terms of a size, traits, ability. 6'5", 267, good explosive athlete that brings that to the table, and all the tools are there. So that's kind of where I'm at with this one. Certainly let me know if you disagree on this, but I just think he fits the mold of what they're going to be looking at. And they've spoken so highly about both of these Georgia edge rushers. I just think he might be a better fit for what they're looking for. Even though E.J. Avero, I mean, Jalen Walker could be an option too. But going on to Andrew Makuba, one of my favorite names in the draft class, Makuba. You get him here in round number 2. This is another one that is a very interesting one, but I figure Merrick can be a guy that you have been playing the box more or less, and then Makuba could be your free safety. They play a lot of cover 3, like I said earlier. So this is a team, you put Makuba as more your free safety. Now, this would be something where you say, well, we would like maybe more interchangeability. I could totally understand that, because maybe you say Makuba is more of a back end guy, not a guy that plays towards the line of scrimmage, because he could be a bit of a liability in run defense. But at the same time, I think what he does so well is his coverage ability, his instincts in zone. He can play man coverage too. So if you wanted to, you could line him up in the slot and play him up against, some slot receivers and stuff like that. But he has the ability to read, diagnose coverages, and make plays. He is a ball hawk. His closing speed is electric. Very good athlete. Plays extremely quick. He's just undersized, lacks the play strength. that could be a bit of a problem if you're going to try to put him in the box. But in a cover three system that you want a deep free safety, I think Makuba is a great add and scheme fit. And then we go on to Jacob Parrish, Kansas State cornerback. I think you've probably not seen him mocked very high lately, but I think he's going to go a lot higher. I think he's as good of a prospect as Mike Sanders still was last year. In a lot of ways, he is the Mike Sanders still of this draft class. I actually think he's a little more sticky in coverage even than Mikey was. And Mikey was great coming out of Michigan. Jacob Parrish, very sticky in coverage, somebody that also plays way bigger than his size. I mean, sometimes he just, versus those physical guys, it's going to be a bit of a problem. He can get pushed off at the top of routes, and that can be big as Achilles heel. He's also not a very good athlete, but Mikey wasn't the greatest athlete either. And you're playing in the slot. He is a slot corner, and that's what I'm drafting here. And if they want more versatility, there's other options on the board that could be available at this point. But I think what Jacob Parrish brings is a very high level slot player in EJ Avero's defense that definitely needs somebody in the slot that can play at a high level. And Parrish to me can do that. And they go in at the Ty Felton, the wide receiver from Maryland. He's going to be a nice fourth wide receiver for them. He's showed off that athleticism at the combine, and you see it on film too. Like he's a good athlete that can play as a hybrid Z too. Like he's not just a slot guy, played a good amount in the slot for them, but he can also play on the outside. Needs to work on his release package. It is a little limiting. He's a bit of a high cut athlete. So there's that to his game, but I think he could be a really, really nice target for them. That could be a developmental slot wide receiver slash also a hybrid Z that moves a little inside out for this football team. Just continue to improve hands and overall play strength at the catch point. I think those are his biggest Achilles heels right now. Drops have been a problem for Ty Felton, especially at the end of the season, really kind of struggled a bit. So he's got to get stronger. He's got to get better at the catch point. And if he does that, I mean, he's got the route running, he's got the yak ability, he's got the athleticism to be a really good weapon for them, whether it's in the slot or on the outside, bringing some versatility there. I mean, I think realistically, he could be a really good outside receiver if he works on his strength and his release. Going on to Smile Mondon Jr., the linebacker from Georgia, who's going to be a nice little coverage developmental linebacker for them. He's got the athletic traits you look for, and somebody that I think man coverage wise, he's one of the better man coverage linebackers in this draft class. Like he's really sticky in coverage. He's up there with like a Barrett Carter's and all those guys, right? He has really good coverage ability in one-on-one situations. I mean, zone coverage. Georgia doesn't really, they play a lot of spies, so sometimes you don't always see it with Smile Mondon. So I need to see more of that with his game. But in general, he's got really good ability to go sideline to sideline, chase, be that coverage will that I think they could really add into this linebacking room. Next week, we got Angini Cornelius. Very strong, maybe not the fastest guy or anything like that, but he's somebody that's been tried true and can be a good, solid backup swing tackle. And that's really what I'm looking for here in the fifth round. Pick 140, 140. It's at the beginning of the fifth round. So this is right in the middle point portion of the draft. I'm going to get a nice, solid swing tackle that could be a good backup for injuries. Our next fifth rounder here, just 6 spots later, I'm going with Jason Marshall Jr. here. Going to be a cornerback that they add some more depth to. I'm still high on Jason Marshall. I think that the value on day 3 is too tantalizing to take a chance on because his tools, like he is going to be great in a cover 3, cover 1 system. That's really where I think he'll thrive the most. And hey, this is one of those schemes. So I think it's a perfect scheme fit. He's got the athletic profile. He's not an elite athlete or anything like that. He's got some hip tightness, but he's got NFL size build and can hang up on the outside and be a good backup, developmental third corner, injuries, etc. So important to have some depth, and that's why we double dipped at the cornerback position in this draft. So our final 5th round pick here, I'm going with Epton Chisholm from Eastern Washington. That's gonna be a nice. This is more of a slot only guy, right? This guy just doesn't really have the speed on the vertical prowess to really be an outside weapon, but in the slot, he wins so well in that short to intermediate game. He's got yak ability. He's a creative route runner. He showed up at the East West Shrine Bowl, looks great. So definitely just trying to take advantage of, another option and another opportunity to build out some depth as wide receiver. Just like we talked about the cornerback room, I want to make sure we have some depth. And in this case, the wide receiver room needs some depth. And Chisholm can be a really nice developmental Adam Thielen. Again, they found these small school cats. I'm going back to that, and we're doing that here. So final pick of the draft, C.J. Dupree from Alabama, formerly of Maryland, transferred over. He didn't really have a whole ton of production. And you could say the offense there wasn't always kind for him to be able to get production. So there's that. The athleticism, he showed that. And maybe he ends up going higher because of that athleticism. So I will say this projection could be a little off on that. I try to go off consensus boards, but at the same time, I also try to use just, straight up common sense of what I think players, going through years and things like that. So Good chance maybe he's off the board here. I just, again, I try to be very conservative with these mock drafts. As you can tell, you probably saying, we could have found way better values with this draft, but I really try to be conservative with this. It's more about the approach of what I'm looking for with each pick, right? What type of schematically from a player that I'm looking for, what type of player I'm looking for, like all those things is really what I'm, envisioning here. And I try to mix in some steals with some also maybe some reaches because in the real life, like that's just how it goes. But Dupree's going to be a nice inline blocker, not the greatest route runner. Even if you go back and watching, like he's not really open all that time. His athleticism doesn't quite show to that elite level, so we shall see how he develops. But I think he'd be a really good blocking number 2 tight end that has some upside there as a pass catcher. Be another good developmental tight end for them. So we look at the draft here and what we were able to do. My main priorities on offense. Let's find some more weapons for Bryce Young. I think we did that with Tyfel, Neft, Chisholm. Going to at least give him some more depth. Like that's the big thing here. We got to add some more depth. We get a black up tight end. We didn't do anything at quarterback, running back. I think they're in a really good spot there. And then offensive line, we had an Ingenie Cornelius, just a developmental swing tackle. That's really, I think, what their biggest concern is on that offensive line. But in terms of their starters, they're really locked in there on that offensive line. The defense is the biggest need on this roster that they need to address, that defensive line. Let's make sure we're prioritizing that. Add some more help in the secondary. They're not done yet. They have to add a lot more depth in this secondary. The defense line, though, you got Mikael Williams, going to be a day one impact for them. Now, they may rotate things. Hey, even Jadeveon Clowney could be a surprise cut in this scenario or a trade candidate going into the actual season. I'd still keep Clowney. You roll into next season with Clowney, Mikael, Pat Jones, Woonerman Johnson as your main rotation of 5. And I think that would be really much better. And that interior, that defensive line looks good. And then linebacker-wise, we had in some help there too. Smile Mondon's going to be a good developmental coverage linebacker. And your hope is the future that Wallace would be your Mike, Mondon would be your Will. And that'd be, I think, a really good 1-2 punch there. And then cornerback-wise, you had a day one impact of the slot like this to me, as I was mentioning. I think you got to add more competition, but I think Parrish could be a day one starter, just like Mike Sanders still was for the, even though they played on the outside mainly for them this season. But Parrish, I think, plays on the in there, that slot position. And then last but not least, Makuba, we get a safety to be that free safety in this defense with Merrick, who can be more that box guy. Not that Makuba can't play in the box. I just think his primary strength is playing deep and really having his eyes in on the quarterback and making plays. Like he's just so good at that. So that's going to do it here for the Carolina Panthers. Once again, I apologize for being so long with these videos. I'm really trying to get back to things and getting full health and all those sort of things. So bear with me. I probably won't even be looking at the camera because some dizziness and going on right now and everything like that. So I'm just trying to find the best way to do this. And I hope you guys have a good day though. And I will have a surprise coming up very soon. So keep an eye on that. It'll be hopefully, it's my way of saying sorry, I guess. I don't know. It is what it is. But anyway, I love you guys and hope you have a good day.